Hey guys, Raven here. Today we're going to talk about the water situation in the desert, which a lot of you are concerned about. What should you do in terms of where should you get the information, how many liters should you take with you in terms of capacity, and what kind of filters and water system should you use. So let's start by talking about the information. So there are two main sources for you to find out when is the next water, what kind of, if it's trickling, if there is any water. And the first one would be the absolute almighty Guthook. Guthook is, so many good things have been said about Guthook. It's really, really handy. In other words, basically, I wouldn't say crowdsourcing, but crowdsourcing in terms of the content. Let's just put it this way. You have the maps in every point along the way. Other hikers that have been there before you could write a comment and say, maybe 3 days before that or 2 days before you arrived, somebody was there to write, hey, their water is still trickling, there's a great flow, or maybe it's dry. So every water source will be marked with some comments. However, some water sources are not completely marked in the sense that they're not exactly on the trail. You'll find for yourself that in some campsites, if you'll click on the campsite itself, on the icon, you'll see the notes below, and sometimes it would say, hey, 0.3 from the campsite, if you'll take this route in this direction, you'll find out that there is water. It's still, maybe trickling, but there's still water. Not all of them are on Guthook, but some of them are just in the comment formats. The second place that you'll need to equip yourself with, and don't just rely on Guthook, would be the water report. The water report is basically conducted and maintained by volunteers, people that live in the area. It's a wonderful source of information. It's great. You should definitely print yourself a copy. Now, it changes all the time, right? It depends on the snow year and on the rainfall, etc. But you don't need to just kind of rely on the fact there was a great year in terms of snow. But if you'll start in May, you might discover for yourself that, half of your water sources are kind of dry, or maybe there are some caches further down the line. Water caches are something you should not always rely on. Ideally, you should think of them as a bonus, because you'll be surprised that they are there. They do help, but you never know if there is, when we're there, somebody filled them up again, etc. Those are maintained by trail angels, great people with a big heart that help us hikers do the whole thing. So treat those kind of water caches as an extra and don't rely on them completely. So my suggestion is to have, if you have whether you have an iPhone or an Android, download Google spreadsheets and have a copy on your phone of the water report, and that would be a great place for you to just, whenever you have Wi-Fi or 3G, 4G, LTE, just hit the refresh, and then you'll have everything basically with all the latest and greatest comments on your phone. And that is also true for Guthook. That brings us to number 2. How many liters should you take with you? Now, there's no exact science. I can say from my personal experience that I took 6 liters at the beginning. I had no idea how the desert's going to be like, and I have to admit that it certainly will, although it was freaking heavy. It certainly will in the sense that the first day when I hiked with my group, we got to Hauser Creek and it was dry. There were some comments that there's a side trail that with some water that would lead us, we could find maybe a mile away, but we're exhausted. One of us, we kind of started hiking that way, and one of us kind of slacked back and ran towards that area, and he missed it by 0.1 mile. If he would go further up, he would find it, but we had to dry camp, and I think we had at the time, if I remember right, 1 liter each, because somebody also gave us some extra water that he carried too much. So that really helped. Another hiker helped us, and we basically got to the next point and found the following day some more water. So don't rely on the goodness of other hikers. They need to drink as well. They need to plan accordingly. But hikers definitely help each other. Take at least a capacity of 6 liters. Even if you carry only 4, because some stretches you'll say, well, you know what, right now I don't need 4, it's too heavy, I'll take 3, that's fine. As long as you have the capacity for 6, 99% of the time, for most people, you'll be fine. If you want to get like capacity of 7, that's fine as well, or 8. If you're a big person, that's absolutely fine. It really depends on your capacity. I've met people, there was a group of girls hiking with us, not too far from Eagle Creek in Warner Springs, and each of them carried 10 plus liters. Why? I don't know, but they feel comfortable with that. That's absolutely fine. Just remember, it's kind of heavy. 1 liter of water equals 1 kilo, or give or take 2 pounds. You'll do the math for yourself in the conversion. So what do I mean by having the capacity? The capacity, if you carry, let's say, 2 big bottles of smart water bottles of, there's 1.5 liters, if I remember right, or the equivalent of the supermarket brand, then you should have things like platypus, or if you are using a Sawyer, or maybe found in a hiker box, the Sawyer bags, although they're not super durable, they're lightweight, and you could find those that contain 2 liters, or maybe have 2 or 3 smaller ones of 1 liter. So if you see them on a hiker box, pick them up. They're very handy. You'll have them in the back, and whenever you'll need them, fill them up. If you don't, just put them unfolded in your pack, and that's it. They don't take a lot of space or a lot of weight. Which brings us to the last section, which is, which water system should I use? Now, there's no right or wrong answer over here. The majority of people use the Sawyer Squeeze. Sawyer has 2 versions, the Sawyer Mini and the Sawyer Squeeze. The Mini, to be honest, skip it. It's not worth the extra, the save of a few dollars. The water just trickles down slowly. It's annoying. It doesn't really work that great, and very quickly it would get cluttered. Not worth it. Get the Sawyer Squeeze. It's more durable. Just remember, if you're any kind of filter that you'll have, whether it's the Sawyer Mini, the Sawyer Squeeze, or Be-Free, if you are in an area and you'll know the temperatures are going to go below 0 or below freezing, 32 if I remember right, it's going to be a cold night, just make sure that you put it maybe in a Ziploc and throw it in your quilt, or in the foot box, or inside your sleeping bag, to make sure it doesn't freeze as well. Otherwise, you have no idea to know if the membrane is fucked or not. So, in terms of the water filters, you have Sawyer once in a while, back flush. You can use, the kit that they give you, or you can use a sports cap of smart water bottles, or any other bottle. Most of the time, kind of the top or the cap is pretty much unified in many bottles, so you don't have to go with smart bottle if that's not your thing. A lot of supermarkets have their own brand or copy or replica, and it's pretty much the same thing without the logo of smart water. So you can use that. There's Be-Free. To be honest, a lot of hikers rave the say kind of like Be-Free as a system, but then get frustrated that a month in or 3 weeks in, it trickles again like any other system that has been used before. It's not as easy to clean like the Sawyer Squeeze. So you'll decide whatever works for you. Others use EpiPen, or they're like the old school pumps, or even pills. I would say avoid the pills, avoid the pump. EpiPen, haven't met a lot of people that they've used it, but if that's your thing, definitely do that. If not, then I would recommend either the Be-Free or the Sawyer Squeeze. One or the other should work for you. If you have any questions, comments, want to know something about the PCT, don't be shy. Comment below. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about this video, and subscribe to the channel. That way I'll know you're interested and you have basically some comments or something like that, and I'll be more than happy to create more content and videos for you. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.